When Cornelius Vanderbilt died on January 4, 1877, he left a will that shocked the Gilded Age. His estate was valued at over $100 million, the largest personal fortune ever accumulated in the United States up to that point. Adjusted for his share of the national economy at the time of his death, that wealth is equivalent to more than $200 billion today. This makes him the second wealthiest individual in American history, trailing only John D. Rockefeller. He reached these heights from a humble start on Staten Island. The fourth of 9 children in a family of modest means, Vanderbilt quit school at age 11 to help his father operate a ferry service. By age 16, he had already started his own business. His rise was powered by a specific repeating formula: enter a market, cut prices below cost until competitors surrendered or paid him to leave, and then hike prices once he controlled the route. Vanderbilt was less an inventor and more a ruthless executor of this strategy. He once assessed his own drive by saying, "I have been insane on the subject of money-making all my life." He spent 40 years applying this playbook to steamboats. After working for an operator named Thomas Gibbons, Vanderbilt found himself at the center of the 1824 Gibbons v. Ogden Supreme Court case. The ruling struck down state-sanctioned monopolies and opened the entire U.S. waterway system to competition. Vanderbilt exploited this opening immediately. Throughout the 1830s and 40s, he entered established routes offering dramatically lower fares, accepting short-term losses to bleed his rivals. Competitors frequently chose to pay him substantial sums just to stay out of their markets rather than face the costs of fighting him. During the California Gold Rush, he expanded his reach by creating a transit route through Nicaragua. This path was both faster and cheaper than the existing Panama route, earning him over $1 million in profit every single year. By the early 1860s, he had parlayed his shipping dominance into a net worth of nearly $30 million. Controlling the fastest geographic pathway between the coasts gave him the leverage to dictate terms to the entire market, a principle he would soon apply to a much larger industry. At nearly 70 years old, Vanderbilt exited shipping to focus on railroads. He started with the New York and Harlem Line, followed by the Hudson River Railroad. To force the acquisition of the New York Central, he used his infrastructure as a weapon. During the winter of 1866, Vanderbilt refused New York Central freight at his Hudson Junction, severing them from Manhattan. Facing ruin, the board surrendered. He gained control without firing a shot, establishing the first continuous rail service from New York City to Chicago. However, the Commodore strategy eventually met its match during the Erie Railroad War of 1867. He attempted a hostile takeover by buying up every available share of the Erie line. The Erie's management fought back by illegally printing massive quantities of new stock. Every time Vanderbilt bought shares to gain control, the directors manufactured more, diluting his holdings faster than he could acquire them. Vanderbilt lost roughly $7 million in the attempt, while the Erie directors fled across the state line into New Jersey, carrying suitcases full of cash to avoid arrest. Choking off physical infrastructure allowed him to force acquisitions at will, but the tactic failed when the battlefield shifted to the infinite manufacturing of paper shares. Despite his reputation as a monopolist, Vanderbilt's operations brought genuine efficiency to the rails. He standardized track gauges, rationalized scheduling, and invested heavily in upgraded infrastructure. He also commissioned the construction of Grand Central Depot in Manhattan. Opened in 1871, it served as the massive centralized hub for his expanding empire. When he died in 1877, his will reflected the same cold logic he used in business. He left $95 million to his son, William Henry, while his wife and 8 daughters received only fractions of that amount. The will prioritized the preservation of the monopoly over familial fairness, concentrating the capital to ensure the empire wouldn't be diluted by his heirs. While William Henry doubled the fortune by 1885, grandchildren shifted their focus from commerce to consumption. They built legendary monuments to Gilded Age excess, like the Biltmore and the Breakers, moving the family wealth into non-productive assets. The decline was rapid. By a 1973 family reunion at Vanderbilt University, there was not a single millionaire among the 120 descendants in attendance. Cornelius Vanderbilt was a barely literate competitor who rejected philanthropy and lived only to win, and in that pursuit, he unified the disjointed networks that powered the Northeast's economic growth. While his drive for efficiency left the country with a modernized rail system, the family empire itself would not survive generations that prioritized spending over the struggle of building. In our next episode, we pivot from the corporate battles of New York to the streets of Dublin. We'll explore the Irish Republican Army, from the 1916 Easter Rising to the 1998 Good Friday Agreement, and the 80 years of political violence that followed.